Hello and welcome back to the Freelancers Tea Break, the short and sweet podcast you can enjoy whilst you're making or drinking a cuppa. And this week I wanted to talk about shoulds. What are the freelance shoulds that you can absolutely dump in 2025? So these are all the things that you feel you should do. And I'm here to bust some myths, basically. So let's kick off with a bit of a list. I should accept their payment terms. No. If their payment terms are 90 days, then you don't have to accept that. You can ask them to bring it down to 30 or even less. And the Small Business Commissioner website actually has some great guidelines on this anyway. But if they can pay their employees in 30 days, why can't they pay you in 30 days? It's nonsense. And we live in a time where you can do digital transfers. There's no reason anymore for 90-day terms. So you don't have to accept their payment terms. I should discount. This is one I hear so much, and I would really, really recommend Denise Duffield-Thomas's. She has done this brilliant video. Actually, I think it was a talk in London, actually, all about how women and men sale. But actually, I think it's applicable to everybody about how we will offer something and then say, oh, but I can offer you a discount, or I can add this on top, or, adding all this extra value when all you can say is, yeah, here's my price. And you don't need to add on lots of things or discount things. So don't feel like you should be discounting. And I think I've done an episode on this a while ago about how instead of discounting, you can add value if you need, but I would always reduce what you're offering for their budget. Not always, but say you have somebody that wants a social media manager. They want them to do 3 channels every single day, and they have a budget of X, but that's lower than what you offer. Then you can offer them the equivalent. So it might be 3 social networks 2 or 3 times a week based on their budget. So reduce what you offer based on their budget, not the price. Next one, I should work for exposure. Now, this one is one where there's a difference between, say, PR and exposure. But if somebody is saying, oh, can you come work with us? It'll be great exposure. We'll tell people that we're working together. Why can't they just pay you and tell them you're working together? Just being paid in exposure is nonsense. I've spoken about this in the past a little bit about how there are a couple of times where it's okay to work for free, which might be if you're working with, say you're a photographer, you might work with a makeup artist or a hairdresser to do a shoot, and then you all get copies of the images that you can then all use in your portfolios. That's okay. That's not too bad because then you're all benefiting from that. And I don't really even think if you're a new freelancer, you should be working for free. I did do internships. They did help me, but I do feel now that actually if somebody is bringing you in, even at an intern level, let me try that again. I do think if someone is bringing you in, even at an intern level, they should be still paying you because you are still doing work. So, there's definitely very few occasions where it's okay to work for free. So I should work for exposure is definitely not one that you should be doing. I should do that. Could you just task? So this is the client that pops up and goes, oh, can you just do this? It'll only take you 5 minutes. I love how they all say, it'll only take you 5 minutes. It might take you 5 minutes, but that's 5 minutes because you have become so skilled at what you do that you can do it quickly. And that 5 minutes is never just 5 minutes because it's responding to the message. It's everything afterwards, and it's eating into other projects that you might be working on. So it's okay to say, when someone comes to you with it, can you just task? You can either say no, or you can say, I can do that, but I will need to not do something else. Or where would you like me to prioritize this work? Because if I do this, I won't be able to do this. Or, yeah, I'd be happy to do that, but I'll be charging extra. Next one, I should be on all social networks. No. First of all, what if your clients aren't on all the different social networks? What's the point in being on a social network if your clients are not likely to be on there? So first of all, analyze what social networks you actually need to be on. You don't need to be on any social networks. It's definitely really helpful. And it adds credibility, and it helps you communicate things and keep in people's eye line. But you don't need to be on all of them, and you don't actually have to be on any of them. Um, that's probably a debate for a whole other time. I might have to get Laura on at some point, who does all my reels and things like that. Because it's been hugely beneficial in the last year to be doing that. But you don't have to. And tied in with that, I should network. I should go networking. Again, I think networking is brilliant, and I have got lots of clients and things like that through networking, loads of lovely freelance friends, but it's also not accessible to everybody. So there are plenty of reasons why people can't network, and also some people just really don't enjoy it. Even though I'm an introvert, kind of love it. I can only do it in short bursts as well, because I have to de-people afterwards. But freelancing, networking is not something that everybody has to do. So if you find that something else works even better for you, just go with that. It's fine. There's no rules here. If you're not networking, unless you don't have any business coming in and you haven't tried networking, then maybe that is something that you should explore. But there's no shoulds here. I should reply to emails straight away. That can feel really guilty. I think it even gets more heightened when you've got things like Slack and things like that. So it's okay to have boundaries about how quickly you reply to emails. And if you get an email on a Friday night and that's not part of your work hours, don't respond to it. Even better, don't read that email until Monday. Once you start doing it, that will become the expectation. So try to hold your boundaries with that. And kind of on a similar line, I should use WhatsApp or voice notes for business. Now, I use voice notes a lot, but with my team, I use Slack or Voxer, both which transcribe. I mainly use Slack, to be honest, because it transcribes it all. So it makes it so much easier for them to have a quick glance at it. And I love WhatsApp, but I send voice messages to friends and family. But I also know there are some people that really don't like voice notes, and I don't tend to send them one. My husband is not big on voice notes, so I don't tend to send him many voice notes, really. So it's understanding what works for you both. There is an accessibility thing here, but if they love voice notes, then maybe it's worth talking to them about Slack or Voxer, so at least you have the transcription if that's not your bag. And just generally WhatsApp. If you don't want to be using your personal WhatsApp for work, don't, because it really makes it hard. It blurs the line so much when you get loads of WhatsApps, when it's out of work hours and things like that. So if you can avoid it, I would recommend that. But yeah, you don't have to use WhatsApp just because that's your client's preferred communication. It's a bit different if, like, you have a client and their whole business is run on, say, Microsoft Teams. Ugh, I hate Microsoft Teams. But if I had a client come on board and that was their primary level of communication that they have across the business, I would use that. But otherwise, you're allowed to say what you do and don't like with communication and what you will or won't accept. Right, next one. I should say yes to everything. No, and actually they'll respect you more if you do say no to some things or set boundaries with some things. So yeah, it's a really good thing to say no to some things. And also it makes room for the things that you really do want to say yes to. I should be available immediately. This is an interesting one because I've had a couple of clients recently who have had actually lots of clients come in and then they panic because they're like, oh, I can't work with all of them at once. But you can turn around to a client and say, yep, I have some availability next month or the month after. And generally, unless it's an absolutely urgent case, most clients are happy to wait a little bit longer. So it's okay to have a waiting list. It's okay to tell people that you'll be available in a month or in 2 months. You don't have to be available to everybody immediately. And quite often people are inquiring about things that they're not necessarily thinking are completely urgent anyway. So it might be something you want to build into your onboarding or your initial contact message. Like, when do you need this completed by? So that will give you an idea. Next one might be a controversial one. Well, it's not. It's not really controversial, but I should use AI. You don't have to use AI. I would say you have to understand how AI is, what's happening in your industry and how it's impacting things. You need to be aware of AI for your contracts and things like that. But you don't have to use it if you don't like it or you don't get on with it. I use it quite a bit now for different things. I've just used it to meal plan for the whole week. And I even used it I get an email that comes through from a really good website that tells you all of the awards coming out in the next month, which are open for you to apply for. And I just copied and pasted it in there. It's a really long list. And I said, knowing how you know me, because it knows my business now, which one of these awards would be applicable and why. And then it's given me a lovely little report. So I really like it. But I totally understand ethically, some people are really uncomfortable with it. Some people just don't like the tech side. They're more pen and paper. Absolutely fine. You don't have to use it. I would say you still have to educate yourself on it, because in the same way that you have to educate yourself on legislation and accounts, they're things that we don't necessarily like, but we have to be aware of them and make sure that we're dealing with them properly. No, how's the best way to say it? Prepared for what will happen with it. And I think that was most of my shoulds, but I'd love to know if you have any shoulds that you feel like you're keeping to. And also if there's something that you've this year just decided, I'm not going to do that anymore. And I've always felt like I should do it. I mean, I'm not saying like pay your taxes, things like that, but things like I feel like I should be on TikTok, or I feel like I should respond to emails in a really formal, long form way. Or, any of these kind of things. Or I feel like I should show up on video. One of the things I did last year was, with recording this podcast, I did try for 6 months or so recording them as videos, and it just didn't work for me because it just required so much more effort. That sounds lazy. It required me a lot more executive function, actually. So now I really enjoy podcasting again. So I'm going to challenge you to think of some shoulds in your life. Are there any that you can get rid of? Find easier ways to do things. That's my thing that I'm going to leave you with this week. Have a wonderful freelance week, everybody, and I will see you in the next episode. Or I'll talk to you in the next episode.